What's going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and today we're going to start a new series called Would You Make That? That's where we are going to look at unproduced movie scripts, and we are going to have you at home in the chats let me know, would you have made that movie, or would you have said, pass? And so with that being said, let's talk comics. That's right, gang. So we're going to start with Batman-themed movies, and I'll tell you guys how this idea kind of originated, but we might expand more on other comic book movies if there are scripts out there that haven't been, of movies that haven't been made, that you can actually access those scripts. I'll read them, and we'll talk about, would you have made that, or would you have passed? And these all have to be unmade movies. So this idea came from Batman and Robin tanking, so Warner Brothers then decided to see what Joel Schumacher was going to do for the third Batman and that script didn't get passed by them, and I desperately want to see that script. You know, I've talked about what the thoughts of that movie were supposed to be moving forward, and I would love to just read that script if they ever release it, and if they do, I will do that for sure. But after Warner Brothers passed on the Joel Schumacher Batman Triumphant, I think is what they were calling it. There was two kind of working titles. They wanted to kind of swing the pendulum a different way. And this book that we're talking about, the script, is Batman Darknight. And you can see it's Darknight. It's all one word. And this is done by Lee Shapiro and Stephen Wise. And so what these two kind of unknown screenwriters at the time, they brought this idea to Warner Brothers. And they were kind of like, all right, we're going to stray away from the campiness of the Schumacher universe, and we're going to swing the pendulum a little bit more. So we're going to talk about what this script was about, what the movie was going to be. We're going to go through it, kind of give you a review of the script, the whole plot, the premise of the movie. We're going to kind of break it down here. And then I want you to let me know in the comments, do you want to see this movie get made? Spoiler alert, it's not getting made. But would you have liked to see this get made? Or would you have said, it was probably a good pass? So with that being said, let's dig in. So, Batman Darknight was supposed to take place after the events of Batman and Robin. To my knowledge, they were going to keep Chris O'Donnell, they were going to keep George Clooney as Batman, but the screenwriters really wanted to stray away from Batman a little bit more in this series, it seems like. And what they're focusing on are the villains a little bit more. And the main villains in this screenplay were Man-Bat and Scarecrow. So if you know who Man-Bat is, he's Dr. Kirk Langstrom. If you know who Scarecrow is, that's Dr. Jonathan Crane. And so in this screenplay, they were both professors going up for the same type of grant at this university. And Jonathan Crane was dealing with fear and all of this stuff. And Kirk Langstrom was dealing with all of the aspects of he was losing his hearing. And so he was trying to genetically engineer stuff to get the hearing of Bat to help with, because his hearing aids were failing, to try and see if there was a way that he could take the DNA of Bat hearing to make humans be able to hear better. Really cool idea. And so you start to see this, they're kind of budding rivals, trying to go for the same grant. Kirk Langstrom's wife's on the board, and we'll get to that stuff later at the university. And so the script starts out pretty quickly of some conversations with Kirk and Jonathan Crane at the beginning, and Jonathan Crane stabs Kirk with his own serum, creating hence Man-Bat. So Man-Bat has a vendetta against Scarecrow, aka Jonathan Crane, because he was the reason that he got turned into a bat. Jonathan Crane is still teaching at the university. Robin, aka Dick Grayson, is in Jonathan Crane's class, and they kind of have a confrontation where they kind of seems like Dick Grayson's being a little bit of a smart aleck. Jonathan Crane, obviously as a professor, does not take well to this and kind of keeps note. Then at a Halloween party, Jonathan Crane sends his goon to basically stab Dick Grayson with the fear toxin. Dick Grayson goes buck wild at this party, just fighting off invisible people and all of this, and he gets committed to Arkham Asylum. And so Bruce Wayne is trying to deal with, how does this happen? What do I do with this? And Bruce Wayne has kind of stepped away from being Batman for a while because of previous events he's like, I'm not Batman. And Jim Gordon's investigating the, disappearance of Kirk Langstrom because he's now Man-Bat, and Man-Bat sightings have been popping up all around. But people are thinking it's Batman that's being sighted, but because they haven't seen Batman in a while, but it's not Batman, it's Man-Bat. And so Alfred and Bruce are like, what's going on? And Dick Grayson, before he got hit with the fear toxin, was, there were some like, is Bruce ever going to become Batman again? Like, this is like, I want him to become Batman again. We need to go out. I'm not ready to do it on my own, but we need to go out and help the city. So there's layers upon layers upon layers here that's happening. Really cool with where they were trying to figure out to take this Batman story in a new direction a little bit. And it's definitely a darker tone for sure. Dick Grayson's committed to Arkham Asylum. Bruce Wayne's like, I can't have this. He's trying to go and figure out, they're like, there's nothing you can do about this. He then runs into Kirk Langstrom's wife, who then is upset with him for taking police forces to deal with Dick Grayson being committed into Arkham Asylum when her husband's still missing. And Bruce Wayne's just like, hey, I'll help you as much as I can, but this is something I got to deal with right now. And so as Bruce is trying to figure out how can he get Dick Grayson out, Jonathan Crane's actually up to go to the review board because he's, had some questionable antics that have arisen. And the board basically is like, we're canning you, we're cutting your tenure, we're cutting all your funding, you're fired. Jonathan Crane doesn't take that well, but because of that, Jonathan Crane was the attending physician because he was working at the university, but he was also working in Arkham Asylum. He's the one who had Dick Grayson committed, so since he got removed from his position at the university, he was also removed from his position at Arkham. And so then Dick Grayson was able to go into Bruce Wayne's care, which is pretty cool. So Jonathan Crane obviously now has a vendetta. He wants to go and attack all the board members who revoked his tenure, who got him kicked out of Arkham and the university. And you got Man-Bat, who's mad at Jonathan Crane because he turned him into Man-Bat. So Man-Bat is now hunting Jonathan Crane. And they get to this part where Man-Bat attacks Jonathan Crane, basically demolishes him like it should kill any human being, rips apart his face, all this, and Jonathan Crane gets away. Batman and Robin were fighting him. Jonathan Crane goes back to his family's farm, which is on the outskirts of Gotham City. And it's really cool. We get some history of that his family moved there because Jonathan Crane was a little off and there were some situations that he did in his past that his dad's like, we got to remove you from basically society because you got some stuff you need to deal with. And so this is where Jonathan Crane retreats. And you see, it's really cool how they paint this picture of Jonathan Crane in this barn. Jonathan Crane is suturing himself up, sewing all his scarred face together, which is super creepy, but kind of cool. Gauze all over his face, which is kind of getting your Scarecrow mask. You're seeing where this is going. And then because of his connection with the barn, he puts on just some ragtag farmer's clothes. He puts on this, the pointy kind of Scarecrow hat. He has the Sith. I think that's what it's called, a Sith, the long, man. Sweet. We need to see that more often with Scarecrow. And he is then now takes his persona of Scarecrow and he embraces this. And so you start to see these fights. Scarecrow goes after the dean, who basically was part of getting him removed, and fear toxins, right? And so the dean thinks there's all these rats climbing all over him. And so he's taking a freaking letter opener and stabbing himself all over, but because he's trying to stab the mice and the rats, but there aren't anything. So he's just taking a letter opener, dark stuff. Man, who hurt you, Lee and Steven? Because they're definitely taking this to a little darker place than Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. But there are still some elements of, I think, even in Batman and Batman Returns, you get some of the comic book puns, not to the full extent of, I'm honored and this is cool, chill out, and, the ice skates. It's not to that extent, but there's still little hints that you're like, okay, I appreciate what they're doing to bring in the comic book element because it is a comic book movie, let's be honest. And so Robin's trying to face his fears, and Robin has to deal with Scarecrow. And Batman figures out that Man-Bat is Kirk Langstrom, and he's trying to help out Kirk Langstrom, but Kirk Langstrom has a vendetta against Jonathan Crane. And Batman's trying to you don't want to go this, you will actually become the monster that you are if you kill Jonathan Crane. And just really cool concept and story. And so you have this in the third act of Batman and Robin. Batman's trying to save Man-Bat. Robin is trying to, basically settle the score with Jonathan Crane, who had him committed. And, so they both have their kind of rivals that they're butting with. And so Jonathan Crane is hunting down all the, the dean, the other people that were on the board that basically got him canned. And this is then where we find out too that Jonathan Crane has something wrong with him, which allows him to not feel pain, which is why I like it too, because this is where you get this idea that the scrawny, how's he a tough guy? Well, he doesn't feel the pain of the claw, when Man-Bat scratches his face. So he can endure a lot of pain, which makes him a very worthy adversary. If you don't feel pain, you're going to be able to stand up toe-to-toe with Batman and some other vigilantes, because you don't feel it. You don't got nothing to lose. And so, and then we're starting to see the gauze is gone, and the scars of his face from where he sutured it together is really becoming, his face has become the mask, the Scarecrow mask in and of itself, which is a cool thing. It would have been interesting to see how they did it, because it's got to work just right for it to make it look good on screen. But Batman goes after Jonathan Crane while he's at Arkham Asylum while Scarecrow's dealing with some stuff. Robin's going to a Gotham City University fundraiser to try and, keep an eye out on the board members that are there. Scarecrow's hitting people with fear toxins all over the place, and Man-Bat's coming in, and Robin's dealing with his past and trying to, his feeling of not being able to save his parents from death, just like Bruce Wayne. So, a classic Scarecrow storyline of people dealing with their inner demons. And then it gets to where Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. Scarecrow, goes back to the barn. And this is where we have the big finale, is in the Scarecrow barn. And poof, Man-Bat and Jonathan Crane's kidnapped Kirk Langstrom's wife, holding her hostage, dealing with that. And so Batman's trying to save Kirk Langstrom, and they get an antidote into Kirk earlier in the movie. He doesn't think it works, but now we're starting to see that it is. And so he's becoming not Man-Bat anymore. And Robin then is fighting with Jonathan Crane, having to deal with. It's just a really cool concept. And I'm going to leave it there. That's kind of the setup of the story. I've given a lot of the whole plot of the story, of what they're dealing with. I will say this. They do tease, then the villain at the end is going to be the Mad Hatter in the next movie. Which, I know some people are like, I don't like Jervis Tech, but I would love to hear what you guys would think. So this is the idea of trying to take a darker route with Man-Bat and, with Scarecrow. And I think those, when I first heard those two villains, I was like, I don't know if I vibe that. I'm telling you what, gang, this is a great read. First I was put off by it because it's a script. I didn't know if I would enjoy reading a script. I'd never read a script before. I read it in 2 days and I crushed it. It was a really easy read. Awesome. You can actually get this on Amazon if you want to read it yourself. Highly recommend it. I think it was $9.99 or something. Really cool to have a piece of Batman history of something that could have happened but never did. And so here's what I'm asking you. I want to know, if you were an exec at Warner Brothers, would you have wanted to make this movie, or would you have said, no, it's probably a good thing that they passed? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Do you like this idea of reviewing unproduced movie scripts? Because I think it's awesome. There's a whole slew of Batman unproduced ones that were from when Batman and Robin until we got to Batman Begins. I know there's a Frank Miller, Darren Aronofsky Batman Year One script out there, which sounds it's bananas. Year One is already a bonkers comic, and then they just take it up to the next level. And so I want to read more of these. So if there are scripts out there in the Batman world that you're like, hey, dude, read this one, talk about it. Or if there are other ones of, I know there's a Nicolas Cage Superman movie out there that never got produced at some point. And I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you guys have any care, or am I the only nerd who likes unproduced comic book movies of what we could have had? Because I think this is awesome. I dream about that would have been a dope movie if we got Batman Darknight. So with that being said, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.